Good morning, everybody. Lee Brower here, and welcome to this week's edition of Meaningful Monday. I am grateful to be here. I am glad to be here. Isn't life wonderful? You've heard me say many times, life is the perfect school, albeit with imperfect students. But there is nothing in this world, nothing in this life that we can't learn from. And the last couple of weeks for me have been huge, huge learning weeks. One in particular has affected my life in a way that I would say is life altering. Perhaps not that drastic, but certainly life aligning, let's say, aligning me with some of the things that matter most. More about that in a future Meaningful Monday. I have two other stories about learning that I'd like to share with you. First, let me ask you the question, who owns your past? Who owns your past? Maybe you've heard me ask you this question before. Well, I think most of you will say, I own my past. Okay, if you own your past, if you're the owner of it, what are you doing to take care of it, to nurture, to learn from it? As we have experiences in the past, we can continue to learn from those experiences and they can continue to teach us new things. So I have two stories. One is called The Coach, and we'll call it Luke's Coach. And the second one is called The Watch. So let me tell you about Luke's Coach. So our grandson, Luke, we were at his football game this last Saturday. In fact, we were at his game and then Jace's, his brother's game, and we couldn't get over to Riker's game. Three grandsons playing football on the same weekend. But still, what a delight. It's just a wonderful thing to see these kids have so much fun and enjoy something so much. But anyway, after the game, Luke's team lost. He had a phenomenal game personally. But he was down in the dumps a little bit about the team losing. And he had scored a touchdown. Let Grandpa brag just a little bit. He scored a touchdown. He caught several passes for long yardage. He tackled behind the line of scrimmage. Overall, probably his best game. So I was very proud of him in that regard. But it's interesting because I limit what I say right now to not really talk about how he played. I limit what I say to just tell him how grateful I am and how much joy it gives me to watch him play. I don't want them thinking about that I was there and what made me happy was the way that he played or the plays that he made. I want him just to know that I love watching him and enjoy watching my grandsons play. Anyway, that was a sidebar. You know me. All right, coming back to Coach. At the end of the game, so there was a playoff game, so they're now eliminated. Their record was more losses than wins, barely, for the season, and he gathered these kids around him, and he said, I want to tell you a story. And this story is about my coach when I was your age. He said, I hadn't seen him. Now, these are 8th graders, by the way. He said, I hadn't seen him for years and years, and I saw him at a wedding recently. And Luke's coach went up to him and said, remember me? And, of course, he did, and they got talking and reminiscing. And he said, guess what? I'm coaching 8th graders just like you did. And it's the funnest thing. It gives me so much joy. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity. And the coach said, yeah, I remember that. We went. He says, it was like a nightmare. I still remember that. I know I could have done something better. I can't believe we went 10-0. And Luke's coach goes, we went 10-0? He goes, yeah, we didn't win a game. We didn't win a game? Boy, that's not what I remember. I just remember how much fun we had, how much we learned, how much life lessons I've been able to take and use in my own life. I am so grateful for those experiences. They are cornerstone to my life. Now here you have the same experiences, two different learnings, or you had the one that stayed in scarcity, thinking about the things that they did not do. You had the other one that stayed in abundance, thinking about the things that they could do and that they did do. Two different interpretations of the same event. And my guess is that Luke's coach has taken that interpretation and learned more from the experience that he had with his coach than when he was with him. And he's taken those learnings and he's now passed them on to future generations. Now the watch. On the airplane last night, as I was traveling in Chicago, I had the delightful privilege of sitting next to a woman who was very, very knowledgeable, very energetic, very engaged in embracing life. And it was obvious. She was very well spoken, and she had high ideals, and she was out, just really full of happiness. And as we were talking, I learned that her husband had passed away in an airplane accident a little over 10 years ago. And she said that that really impacted, she said it was a shock of her life, the awakening to all the responsibilities that she had. She was overwhelmed. She had lost her own zest for life. And she said, but just on the 10th anniversary, several of the survivors, there were 8 people in that crash, several of the survivors' families wanted to go out and go to the actual plane crash site. She did not go. One of the people walking around, one of the men walking around, stepped on a watch, found a watch out there, pulled it up, and took a picture of it, and it turned out to be her husband's watch. Now think about this, 10 years ago. And so he picks up this watch. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty interesting story. My question was the watch running? And she said, well, when he first picked it up, it wasn't, but with movement, it started running, and it keeps perfect time. She says, I wear it all the time now. So she is now wearing this watch that this man found 10 years after she had passed away. She said, you know what I've learned? I said, please tell me. She said, I learned that 10 years ago, when this watch stopped, my husband's life stopped as well. And I learned that 10 years ago, when this watch stopped, my life went on. But I acted as though it had stopped. But when I found this watch and it was running, it was like somebody shot me out of a rocket. And I quit feeling sorry for myself, quit feeling overwhelmed, and realized that I have time on my side, that I still have time, and that I can go on and make a difference with my time. It's different stories, different interpretations. And my guess is that this story about the watch, as she shares it with others, that the day will come when somebody will say, when they're trying to make a decision, will say, remember the watch, and they'll make the right decision. The stories we have, our experience is our greatest teacher. The stories we have, if we capture them, if we learn from them, if we look through the eyes of a learner, an abundant mindset, they'll continue to teach us our entire lives. I'm grateful for being able to have a peek into these other people's lives and the learnings that they've had, and grateful that I can share them with you. Have a meaningful week this week. I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye. Remember the watch. Remember Luke's coach. Bye-bye.